There was some believers and some non-believers. We used to have sightings where a fin might be seen cruising past, which probably at the time was a little bit unbelievable. Those stories became a legend. Over a period of time, with a lot of people reporting these sightings, I guess it became known that there must be something there.
After weeks of tall tales, this picture emerges.
And that picture made it into the local paper and gave the legend story a little bit more substance. You're probably thinking it's a bit of a crazy story to have large sharks just hanging around in a lake on a golf course.
Scott Wagstaff is one of a growing number of people who find sharks where they least expect them.
I think the reality is, until you see the shark for yourself for the first time, it's very difficult to believe the story. It doesn't make a lot of sense, really.
Rumors of golf course sharks swirl. Course manager Scott Wagstaff investigates. He figures any shark stuck in a lake may be hungry. Within minutes, a shark shows itself.
I'm so excited as I can't believe I've finally got this video footage of a shark. I'm literally only probably 2 meters away from the shark at this point. It was so close.
Shark biologist Jasmine Graham has spent hundreds of hours studying sharks.
The fact of the matter is, you just don't know where a shark might show up.
Then the mystery deepens. Experts like Jasmine can identify individual sharks by their fins. The shark fin in the first picture is different to the one in Scott's video. There may be 2 sharks. Experts move in and gather more evidence. What they discover shocks everyone. There's not 1 or 2 golf course predators, but 7 different sharks.
Everyone that came and played our golf course wanted that opportunity to see a shark fin as they played. That sort of became the thing here. You know, did you see the shark today?
There he is there, look. Wow.
The golfers here now know that's somewhere where you leave your ball to rest and you don't go and try and retrieve it for obvious reasons. The value of someone's life is probably not worth a golf ball.
Biologists identify the intruders, bull sharks. Bull sharks are one of the 3 most dangerous species. They have one of the strongest bite forces of all sharks. No problem biting through a golf club or even a golfer. Most notably, bull sharks have a special adaptation. They can tolerate fresh water.
Basically, the big issue as to why certain animals can't go in freshwater is that their bodies are too salty, and so they actually get a rush of water into their bodies, into their cells, that causes them basically to burst. But bull sharks and some other sharks actually have the ability to regulate the salt content in their own bodies so that they can stay level with the environment.
That allows these bull sharks to survive in a water hazard on a golf course and to multiply.
On a couple of occasions, I've had some shark experts come and view the sharks. They believe, because of the size of some of the sharks, that the only way they could have got into the lake was through breeding.
The remaining mystery is how the parents got here in the first place. Almost every year, the golf course is devastated by floods. Nearby riverbanks can't contain the water, so the sharks have an open path.
Whenever there's weather events, sharks usually can sense the change in barometric pressure, so they know whenever big storms are coming. So usually they're going to move into areas where they're at less risk, which is probably how these bull sharks ended up in the pond in the first place, trying to get out of the path of the storm.
When the floodwaters recede, some bull sharks have nowhere to go and wind up stranded in suburbia. But the sharks on the golf course found a lake deep enough to keep swimming. What storms bring in, they can also take away. A more recent flood may have thinned the shark numbers at the 14th hole.
Now, we haven't seen the sharks in the lake for a little while, but I'm not going in for a swim to find out if they're still there. I can't walk past the lake without scanning it for the chance of seeing a fin break the surface. There could very well be a shark in the lake behind me right now.
Sharks are invading unexpected places.
Oh my God!
No one expects to see a great white shark in a swimming pool.
Swarms of them at our feet. Creeks, lakes, backyards.
Oh my God!
They come close for a reason. And now, it's time to find out why. Brearder River is a paradise for water lovers. This estuary is a feeding ground for fish like cob and grunter. Shark food. 30 miles up this pristine waterway, holiday maker Simon Van Helsingen and his friends have spent the day swimming and now hope to catch a few big ones.
We go to the Brearder River every year and we just chill on the boat, chatting, having a laugh, rods are in the water, and good fish. I mean, we probably catching a grunter every 10 minutes, so it's good fun, and it's all catch and release. So we put them back, and really just a fun outing, and until it got a little bit more serious. Basically, I hooked into a fish. I was fighting it, bringing it up to the boat, and then when it was really, really close to the boat, I saw a massive swirl of water behind the fish and realized that's definitely not a fish. So I told my friend just to grab my phone and start filming.
Film it. I'm filming. That's what the bump was. Wait, it's coming back. Full shot! All right.
All of a sudden, when this shark takes this rod, I mean, there's absolutely nothing you can do. It's just holding it, and it's just singing. That reel is absolutely singing, basically like a boat had hooked the line and just stripped it clear. We were just standing there in shock. We were so far away from the ocean, the last thing I expected is a giant shark stealing my fish. I mean, I was swimming this morning, I was in the water.
I will never get in this water! And that right there is the Brearder River. Oh my gosh.
This shark swims in a sleepy backyard waterway for a reason. Renowned shark biologist Alison Towner studies predatory behavior in sharks of all sizes.
Bull sharks are definitely demonstrating a level of sophistication in their behavior here, because they're working out that by sitting and waiting for a fisherman to make a catch, they're doing half of the work for them, and then therefore they can just take an easy kill.
The sharks catch on to easy meals at the end of fishing lines.
Sharks are very intelligent animals. They get these stimuli that indicate this prey is going to be easy, it's injured, it's sick, but they also can be trained, and we've shown this in science, that they actually can be trained to go to specific targets, so they can adapt to knowing, hey, this is a place that I know that I can get this food.
Just how far upstream a bull shark will go for food is anyone's guess. In some cases, far enough to invade someone else's turf. In the heart of Isimangaliso Wetland Park, one of the wildest places on Earth, the river teems with dangerous animals. Hippos are the world's deadliest large-land animals, responsible for around 500 human deaths a year. Crocodiles have a bad rep, too. Adventurers Bevan and Jill Langley are prepared for both. There is something else lurking in the water.
What is that? What is it's like a shark. Oh my god. It's chasing something. What the? Whoa. Whoa. Woof. Woof. Woof.
Such shark encounters appear to be getting more and more common. Local guide Stacy Funvig was there when one turned into an attack.
I see my hippo family, but suddenly there was a bit of a splash. I can see the hippos are getting agitated. They're splashing, they're making a noise. I'm actually getting nervous for the shark now. I'm not sure what's happening. And then all of a sudden, the hippo must have got quite a big fright, and the mother hippo reacted and tried to run after the shark. But because the water was so shallow at that time, the shark didn't actually disappear. It in fact went the opposite direction and went onto the mud. And then more than one hippo started chasing the shark.
Two of the world's deadliest animals vie for the same territory. The shark gets off with a warning, but leaves both hippos and humans puzzled by its presence. In a remarkable twist, it may be the hippos that brought the shark here in the first place.
The sharks were hungry, and as we know, hippos go to the toilet in the water, and the best place for young fish to feed is by the hippos. So the shark was getting a little bit brave, and he decided to go to the hippos to try and get something to eat. And we know hippos have a little bit of a short temper, and being bumped by a shark and woken up to see those teeth, I think the hippo got a bit of a fright, and he reacted and started chasing the shark around.
Bull sharks hunting around hippos may seem bizarre, but food tempts even the smartest of beasts. On the other side of the planet, big sharks with a bad reputation also get close to home. Then closer. Then even closer. First, the Magnuson family prepares for a day of fishing for small mackerel. Before they leave the inlet,
Oh my God! Oh my God!
a great white shark, maybe 13
Whoa,
feet
I'm
long,
videoing right now. Holy, that's you. We were just talking about.
My mind is like right on it.
Oh my
I
God!
don't get this. Look at the size of that.
Look at him.
Boat.
He could tip the boat over. Look at him.
marine scientist Carly Jackson is used to being surrounded by big sharks. Even she finds the Magnuson video unnerving, but not surprising.
That shark's head was like bigger than their boat. Sharks usually can't really tell what's going on at the surface, and they'll need to come up and investigate.
It isn't interested in the baited hook. As quick as it appears, it vanishes. Just when holiday makers at Cape Cod think a shark can't get any closer, one does. Swimmers regularly enjoy the tranquil salt ponds of the area. They seem as safe as a swimming pool. And they are, unless there's a shark invasion. Around the world, great whites are known as open ocean travelers. They feed in deep water and breach from below. But somehow, this 14-foot giant gets into a pond used for leisure. And perhaps strangest of all, it won't leave.
Big sharks get trapped for a lot of reasons. It could be that the tide was high enough at the time for them to swim into the area, and maybe they were chasing prey, and then the tide goes down and the water level drops, and then suddenly this animal doesn't have enough water to get through the area that it came through initially.
It settles in for the day. Then the week. Then 2 weeks. Residents call in experts to get it out, but everyone is stumped.
You can't control a 14-foot great white shark.
The scientists tag her so they can track her movements beyond the pond. They find a possible exit point and lay nets to guide her out. But she refuses to go.
A shark that big can do whatever it wants to.
Fresh bait doesn't entice her out either. They try to catch her, but fail. Finally, they bring in the big guns, water cannons.
The shark very slowly but surely moves away from all of the noise, and they're actually able to steer it by using, I guess, the boats and the high-pressure hoses to guide it back out into the ocean.
"16 days later, the pond is again shark-free. But before anyone can relax, another white shark gets even closer. Out of the water.
Oh my God.
And onto the beach. It's a great white invasion. This youngster is alive, but in trouble after the receding tide left it stranded. Unable to breathe on land, locals work fast to help it back into the water.
Don't get in the water, you guys. Don't get too close.
They're incredibly inquisitive animals. Even juvenile great whites have this, almost this curiosity that's never satisfied.
This curious shark swims off to make a full recovery. But this usually open ocean species leaves behind a perplexing question. Why are they so close to people in Cape Cod? New science reveals a startling fact.
White sharks are seen more and more off the coast of Massachusetts in shallow water. And a lot of the scientists think that that's because the seals are coming in closer. And so they're adapting to that. And they are going after the seals. They're seeing stingrays. And so they're getting more and more comfortable going into shallow water because as the climate changes, as fishing pressures increase, they really have to go for whatever food is most available and easy to get to.
While here, these sharks spend half their time in water less than 15 feet deep.
Quite often it's startling to humans when they see these massive predators right along the beaches where effectively most of us could wade into at waist deep and see them.
Great whites are more versatile than anyone ever imagined. Here at Cape Cod and beyond. Good friends Dale Pearson and Eric Mack return from a shopping trip and see something big in the shallows, right in front of their house.
I look over and I see this gigantic black tail like coming out of the water. It's massive. It looks like it's just like a whale, like a baby whale that's got itself beached right there. So I stop the car, we're looking at it. He jumps out of the car and goes running down to see what it is. I drive up to the house and grab my phone so I can record it. So I'm gonna record us going down to save this baby whale. And I'm running down there now, and as I get closer, I'm getting closer, I'm realizing that this baby whale is not a whale.
I think that's a white shark.
That might be a white shark, bro.
That's a white shark, dude.
Huge freaking shark, bro.
It's a shark, and it's not just a shark, it's a very, very big shark.
Holy it's a white shark for sure. Holy there's a giant white shark. There's my house.
I've been living down there for, on and off for a couple decades. I taught my children how to swim in that bay in front of the house. I've been there multiple times in bad water, and I don't want to believe that I'm looking at a great white shark. This was the last place I ever expected to or even wanted to see a great white shark, let alone a massive great white shark.
Standing right there next to a shark that big, you can feel its power. We have never seen anything that would lead us to believe that that kind of a predator was right there in the water in front of the house.
Holy this thing's huge. Oh my gosh. Holy I'm shaking.
The reason for this up-close visit has nothing to do with a storm or a receding tide.
Looks like it's been hit.
So on this top of the shark, a really large gash, about 8 inches long and maybe about 3 inches deep, right behind the dorsal fin. As he starts to move away from me and flex his tail, I notice blood coming out of the wound.
Whenever sharks get injured, their first thought is self-preservation. It is get as far away from anything that might eat me or hurt me.
Holy.
And so a lot of times injured sharks will go up into canals or shallow water to kind of recuperate. Sharks do have the amazing ability to heal extremely quickly. So really all they need to do is stay alive, stay fed, and then just get a couple of days to heal before they can go back out and resume their normal behavior.
They can regenerate their flesh at rates far faster than most marine mammals are capable of, for example. But what they need to do, of course, is conserve energy to be able to trade off that whole healing process, which is energetically expensive.
The injured great white moves around in the shallows for the next few days before it heads into the deep. Injury is a key reason why a shark may show up on your doorstep. And it's not just great whites that seek refuge. A thresher shark invades the shallows.
The most dangerous thing about a thresher shark is its tail. It uses its tail to stun its prey, and that's just really dangerous for both fish and for humans.
This thresher shark is clearly not hunting. Like the great white, it needs to recover from an injury.
Left fin is fine, right fin gone.
Half of the shark's pectoral fin is missing, possibly from a boat strike or a bite from a bigger shark. Its chances of survival are high. Sharks have more genes dedicated to blood clotting and growing new tissue than any other fish, bird, or mammal.
So that quick recovery is really an evolutionary advantage that allows them to get back out there after a major injury very quickly.
Bye, buddy. Hope you find your way back into the ocean.
Bull sharks can invade a golf course after a storm and follow the food chain to the back step of riverside homes.
I will never get in this water.
Great whites will come in close out of curiosity
Oh my God.
or to recover from injury. But there are even bigger sharks invading even stranger places. An unexpected visitor draws a crowd.
I see this massive shadow swimming around in a harbor and all of these members of the public in awe of it. And for a split second, you can't help but think, is it a white shark?
It swims perilously close to families with children.
But on closer inspection, by looking at its slow, docile behavior, its large, gaping, wide open mouth, we can see it's a basking shark.
It's the second biggest shark in the world. The basking shark is one of 3 species of shark that feed on plankton. And clouds of plankton bring this giant into the harbor for a 3-hour visit.
Sharks are opportunistic feeders, so whenever they're hungry and there's an easy meal nearby, they're definitely going to take that up.
Food can bring in one big shark or a swarm of smaller ones. A man-made intertidal zone now writhes with 150 sharks. Hound sharks. These bottom-dwelling hunters are true to their name, gathering in a pack like hounds. Their flat teeth can crush shell and bone.
So this is an example of a whole bunch of smoothhound sharks in the UK feeding on small crab species.
Such invasions are on the uptick, and we may be to blame. In a small creek right behind a string of homes in South Africa, a shiver of more than 30 large sharks. The sharks are far from an ocean inlet.
What is die bull sharks or what?
Common for bull sharks, but these are not bulls.
Holy moly.
Hound sharks again. And what we see this time is an escape plan.
Well, smoothhound sharks are known to be very thermally sensitive animals. If water gets too cold too quickly, it can also be an environmental cue to vacate the area, which then caused the smoothhounds to enter the river to escape the very, very cold water in the bay.
The unseasonally cold water may have been caused by man-made climate change. Elsewhere, our role in causing shark invasions is clearer. Local resident Janelle Branauer notices something bizarre in her backyard quay.
I saw tips of fins, hundreds of tips of fins, and it was amazing. It was like, what is this? You know, is this Armageddon? You know, we frequently see fish in our canal. We see dolphins, we see manatee, but never ever have we seen sharks. And literally, there was hundreds of them. Like, you maybe could have walked across the canal on the backs of these sharks. That's how many sharks were in our canal. It was amazing. Initially, I first see bonnethead sharks, and they're 3 to 4 feet, which was concerning. But when I see the larger species of fish, including the lemon sharks and the nurse sharks, I know that there is something going on that's not right. This is not normal.
The cause is around the corner. Chemical spills and runoffs in the area contribute to one of the worst red tides and algae bloom in 50 years. It sucks oxygen out of the water and spreads through Tampa Bay.
They're suffocating, they have no oxygen, so they're in search of oxygenated water, and that's what brings them to this canal that's on my doorstep.
Man, this is craziness. Another red tide.
Sharks in our backyards are becoming more common than ever. Weather, food, tides, and turmoil all can place a shark in a body of water near you. The question is, what should we do about it? An unlikely answer can be found in Sydney, Australia. When real estate agent Melissa Hathier hears about a shark in her local oceanside swimming pool.
I'm at home, it's a regular October morning, beautiful sunny day, and the phone rings and it's Mum. And Mum's saying, there's a shark in the rock pool. What? No. What's a shark doing in the rock pool? And I said, let's go. Nan needs help. We get down there and there's a bit of a crew down there and we finally see him. And I said, Mum, someone's got to help him. I'm going to get in. And she's like, you're not getting in that pool with that shark. And I said, no, I am. So I'm just going to go watch because I could see he was only, about 1 meter long. And I thought, he's not going to hurt me. Let's just swim around and see what he's doing.
It's a blind shark, a type of carpet shark endemic to the east coast of Australia that can actually see very well. It only closes its eyes when out of the water. Flat teeth and a vice grip can crush shell and bone.
When he comes past me, I'm realizing he's really quite distressed because he's kind of doing laps of this rock pool. He's bumping into the rocks And I'm thinking, the poor baby, you know, he's just stuck. So he's washed in with a really super high tide, and now it's low tide, and he's probably thinking, how do I get out of here? And I thought, okay, if I can get a grip around your neck at some point where you can't twist around and bite me, I think we're going to be okay. I took him straight over to the side and checked first, is there plenty of water on the other side? There was. Threw him back over, and then it was just like celebrate. I was so happy that I did it.
Melissa didn't end up in the emergency room, but life and limb are more at risk when it's a deadly shark in your pool. It's another beautiful morning in Sydney for a swim in the local pool. Not today. Manly Pool has been closed by a great white. And animal rescue expert Hope Nugent is on the scene.
There is hundreds of people around this pool. Everyone's onlooking, absolute fascination. It's not every day that you see a great white shark in a swimming pool.
Big crowds gather to get a glimpse of one of the ocean's apex predators, swimming just feet away. How this great white came to invade this local pool is a surprising story of shark compassion. It started with a call to rescue.
Initially, the report came through as a mako shark had washed up on the beach. Upon arrival, there was that moment of shock at the realization that it wasn't in fact a mako shark, it was, you know, a great white. It was obvious it was in a really bad way and it needed help. It was too weak to battle the surf zone. It just needed to get him into some still water so that he could continue to swim, rest, and the closest still water was the oceanic pool just around the corner. And most people, when they hear the words shark coming through, they move out of the way.
Whenever you have animals in a small space where they can't escape and they're under stress, they're a lot more likely to lash out than they would be if they were able to swim away. So when you have that fight or flight, if they can't flee, if they can't get away, their next option is to fight, which is where negative interactions can happen.
We were there in the water with the animal to guide it away from the concrete structures so it didn't do any further damage to its body. It never even factored into my thinking that because this animal was considered potentially dangerous or deadly that I wouldn't assist it.
In recent years, more than 50% of all fatal shark attacks occurred in Australia. But this shark isn't demonized. It's saved.
The majority of people at the scene, they are fascinated. They're wanting to ask questions. They're wanting to know what's going on. You know, it's not every day that a great white shark washes up in their backyard on their local beach.
The shark at Manly was placed in the pool by humans, rescued, then returned to sea. It's a different take on what to do when sharks invade our space. But in South Africa, it comes with a warning. Proceed with caution. Here, another great white shark clashes with locals. Lifesaver Rico Kuhn surfs and works in this ocean every day.
It's 8 o'clock in the morning. It's turning from low tide to high tide. So it's pulling back and pushing up at the same time. It's a very dangerous time of day. And it's spring tide, so it's very, very big swell coming in.
These surfers are used to seeing sharks.
The relationship between sharks and surfers is really interesting. Surfers spend a lot of time in the ocean. They're really excited and passionate about conserving the ocean because they use it so heavily. But because surfers are in the ocean a lot, they have more negative interactions with sharks.
Nobody expects what comes next.
My coworker is walking there patrolling, and then I see him coming, running back to me, and he's calling, there's a shark, you must come, you must come. And so I started running there. I see the shark is laying there on the rocks. It's bleeding, it's hurting itself, and something needs to be done now.
Dude, it's gonna die, bro. How are we gonna get out?
You know, when I saw the shark, I saw it's not the usual sharks that we see. We see pajama sharks and the shy kind of sharks quite often just coming into the bay for a little rest. But when I saw the shark, I saw, no, this thing is massive, this thing is powerful. So I think once I got to it, I realized, you know, this is a great white. When I saw those eyes, you know, those pitch black eyes, I realized this is a great white.
The shark is at the surfer's mercy. If they leave it to fend for itself, death is almost certain. The tide pushes it further up the rocks, and the shark can't breathe.
Sharks can survive out of water for varying lengths of time. If we're talking about a larger shark, like a white shark or a hammerhead, we're talking about a couple of minutes.
I do believe that this young shark was just foraging for food. It probably ended up navigating too shallow, perhaps a rip current or some kind of stream just pushed it into an area that was basically rocky with the tide going out. It was bad luck on the shark's part.
I think some were scared because they realized, you know, Victoria Bay is usually a safe bay, and now there's great whites there.
While it's not a huge shark, its presence calls for urgent action.
It's cutting itself. Check, it's bleeding everywhere.
Rico is compelled to help. The tide forces the shark back towards the beach.
We don't want the shark to die. How do we save the shark without it biting us?
You can put on my board.
One slip, and Rico's hand could end in a mouthful of teeth made for slicing.
It feels dangerous to hold the white shark, but in the moment, saving it outweighs the risk. Hopefully it will be grateful and just stay out of the lineup for now.
Don't worry about her body, dude. Beautiful.
And it's a white. It's swimming. It's out.
Well done, dude.
When I did pick up the shark and hear the bystanders freaking out, I remember just realizing what I'm actually doing right now. And when the shark smiled at me and I saw those teeth, I gained a healthy respect that this is a predator and not something to be messed with.
Dangerous predators at our feet. Sometimes due to natural events. Rising tides, storms, the hunt for food, or injury. Other times, because we unwittingly invite them with a changing climate and pollution. They need to escape life-threatening situations. Sharks don't seek us out, but they are coming closer. And when they show up, we can cringe in fear, or try to set things right and lend a helping hand. The choice is ours.
Off the coast of California, close encounters with great white sharks seem to be on the rise.
I was eye to eye with this shark.
When he got up on the paddleboard, he had a huge bite.
The shark responsible for this attack could be a great white.
Shark scientist Dr. Michael Domeyer believes the great white population along this stretch of U.S. coast is booming. And more sharks.
Here's another one.
Means more encounters.
There are many more great white sharks along the coast of California than people ever imagined.
Oh my God, look at that thing.
Now, to protect beachgoers from attacks.
Oh, right there.
It's another new shark, and she's even bigger.
A team of shark researchers are on an expedition to determine just how many great whites are really out there.
Wow!
From Mexico's world-famous Guadalupe Island to a new white shark hotspot just discovered near the beaches of Southern California.
Check that out.
Their mission will bring them face to face with some of the largest great whites on the planet.
Whoa, heads up!
My name is Dr. Michael Domeyer, and I've been studying great white sharks for more than 20 years. What motivates me is that they're such a charismatic mega predator. They have been virtually unchanged for 10 or 12 million years. They get to be 20 feet long. They have a tail more like a tuna, built for speed. And once they mature, they sort of stop getting longer, and they just start getting bigger around. One of the most amazing evolutionary marvels is that the same sharks are really loyal to certain geographic areas. And they seem to assemble into little subgroups. That's why we chose the word tribes. It's not a scientific word, it's just a word to help people understand that these groups of white sharks are different. And what's different about them? Their migration patterns are quite different. The adults tend to aggregate in very specific spots. It's these adult aggregation sites that I'm considering the definition of that tribe.
Booming populations among these shark tribes could explain the explosion in white shark encounters off the coast of California.
There are two really well-studied adult white shark tribes in the northeastern Pacific. One of them is what I call the Red Triangle tribe off the coast of San Francisco. The other tribe gathers at Guadalupe Island, which is located about 160 miles offshore of Baja California. I believe that the Guadalupe Island tribe is the most well-studied aggregation in the northeastern Pacific. In the last 20-plus years, we have identified 454 individual white sharks from that site. Of course, some of them may have died, but not that many things can kill an adult white shark. Meanwhile, we had a population estimate that was published in 2011 that said that the entire northeastern Pacific population of white sharks was about 450. And I did not believe that number could be true. From what I've been seeing along the coast of California at the time, I kept seeing more and more white sharks.
Since the 2011 population study, Dr. Michael Domeyer and his shark tagging partner Keith Poe discovered a new tribe that could change everything people thought they knew about great whites off California.
We discovered this aggregation of adult white sharks here at Point Conception, California. These sharks were completely ignored in this 2011 population estimate. We've never done any type of population estimate here before, which means we have a lot of work to do.
Point Conception is a rugged stretch of California coastline, just west of Santa Barbara. Nestled between the well-known Red Triangle and Guadalupe Island tribes, it could be home to one of the largest aggregations of white sharks on the planet.
From the minimal amount of tagging that I've done here at Point Conception, I know these sharks leave this area and they come back to this area. They don't go to Guadalupe Island and they don't go to the Red Triangle. It's a brand new tribe. Discovery of this new aggregation is really huge. The size of this tribe is going to dramatically impact the overall population estimates in the northeastern Pacific.
Now, Domeyer calls in his all-star team. The mission: count the number of great whites in the new Point Conception tribe.
My name is Neha Acharya Patel, and I am an eDNA scientist at the University of Victoria.
So my name is Nicole Nasby-Lucas, and Michael Domeyer and I have been working together for 20 years now.
My name's Keith Poe, and I'm a shark tagger, and I go out in the field and I locate them so we can catch them and tag them and do research on them.
Keith Poe, he and I have been partners in tagging for a very long time. He is the shark whisperer, the shark caller, and I guarantee you, with Keith on this team, we're gonna have sharks jumping out of the water all day long. The primary mission is to begin the first ever population estimate for these Point Conception tribe of sharks. We've never done it before. It's gonna be really hard for us because we have to start completely from scratch. Let's get to work.
To count sharks, they have to identify as many individuals as they can. To do that, they have to take a lot of shark pictures.
So the method that I developed for Guadalupe Island is actually unique in the world. We use the line between the dark upper side and the white underside. It makes a very unique fingerprint and allows us to identify each shark.
In Guadalupe Island, we have the photo ID database that we started in 2003 that have all the identified sharks in it. Here near Point Conception, we're starting from scratch.
Creating a photo ID database will help them determine a population estimate for the Point Conception tribe. This method of counting sharks is known as mark and recapture.
You just can't count them all. The challenge is immense, so you have to come up with methods to estimate how many sharks there are.
They begin by photo identifying as many sharks as they can.
The picture acts as a tag.
Later, on a return visit, they'll take a second photo survey of the sharks and compare it with the first. Some they may recognize from the first trip, others will be new. It's the ratio of old to new that helps them estimate the total shark population.
So the really important thing is to use this pole cam and also drop cams to try to get images of both sides of the shark. We want to get imagery and we want to get tissue samples for DNA.
In addition to photo IDs, the team will attempt to collect DNA samples from the Point Conception great whites.
This is a biopsy spear that I had machined, and it compresses the skin into the chamber here. And when I put it in, I just twist it back and forth to make sure it dislodges. And once we get it back and the sample's in there, then we push it out into the vial to preserve it.
Genetics can tell the researchers how closely related these sharks are, providing more data on how many might be out there.
As the technology gets better and better, the questions we've been able to ask with DNA have really increased in scope.
To cover as much ground as possible, the team will divide and conquer. While Neha and Nicole work from the main research vessel, Mike will join Keith on his smaller boat, the Shark Tagger.
Shark right here. We got a pole cam.
They're barely ready when a large white shark comes right to the boat.
How close is your drop cam to being ready? Because we've got a shark right here. It's right here in the stern. Watch your head.
We've got a couple cameras in the water right now with a live feed off the camera.
I'm gonna get in the cage right now. I've got my kit ready. I'm gonna take a camera so I can get some really good photo ID of the sharks when they come in close.
We got tied up alongside. We're chumming, just waiting on sharks now.
Any moment now.
Hey, this is your safety diver. I'll call it down as I see him. Hey, on your right. Big girl, come in. I need the same female from before. Outside, do you copy? We got a great lake down here.
Okay, we got a white shark here.
Oh, right there.
There she is right there. Coming around right to my bait right now. There she goes around the bow. She's gonna come up your side, Michael. Right off the bow, right off the bow.
She's giant, giant, giant. Oh my God.
Michael captures a left profile shot of this female, and her unique markings are clear.
Left side is done.
Here she comes, she's turning back.
All right, I need the right side. I just got the entire right side.
Good job.
The three main regions of pigment variability are the gills, the pelvis, and the tail. Pigment patterns aren't symmetrical, so it's important to get pictures of both sides of the shark.
We have to start identifying individuals. Once we feel like we've got good imagery of one side of the shark, hopefully both sides, then let's try to get the biopsy.
Hopefully we can keep them around for a while and get to know them a little bit better.
Oh, nice. A shark just made a pass right in front of the drift camp.
Hang on your left, on your left. I think that's 2 sharks we spotted so far. And a big female, she just took it off.
Heads up, Shark Tagger. Think she's heading your way.
Here she comes. She's gonna come up your side, Michael.
Oh, there she is. Here it comes, here it comes.
Look at her. Here she comes again. She's gonna take that fish.
She wants that. Yep, I'm getting the right side.
You got both sides of her?
I got that. I got it. Go for it. Go, go.
Got it.
Yeah! Right on!
Woo! Check it out.
They get the ID picture and a biopsy from this big female. That's one, but there's a lot more to go.
Here's another one. Here's another one.
She's big, 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 big. Oh yeah, 2. Holy smoke.
Players here now, baby.
It's a lot of sharks, Keith.
With multiple sharks swarming around the boat, Michael and Keith struggle to keep up.
There's a new shark right there. And we got sharks everywhere. Oh my God. No, 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 no. Not the camera.
She's gonna come up your side, Michael.
Oh my God. Not the camera. Oh my God. I don't know, what do you think? That's 5 different sharks at least, huh?
There is at least.
All the previous population estimates did not take into account this group right here. That's what we're trying to do. Put these on the map right now.
Here comes the big one.
Look at that. Look at that.
These pictures are the very first photo IDs of the Point Conception white sharks.
Totally just got left side.
Back at the mothership, researcher Neha Acharya Patel and a safety diver watch out for more sharks from inside a cage.
Incredible how these sharks just come out of nowhere.
Each shark has its own signature markings, but all great whites have the same basic color pattern for good reason.
If you're looking down at a great white shark, you're looking down at a darker surface. You can't really see it. Just like if you're looking up at a great white shark, you're seeing brighter sunlight and that white belly, again, very hard to see. That's called counter shading. So the color pattern of a white shark is all about invisibility. Here it comes, here it comes. Here we go. Holy moly.
He's huge, brother.
Oh my God, hit the bucket. No, 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 don't eat the bucket. Don't eat the bucket. Don't eat the fender.
There was another one right here. They're getting bigger and bigger now.
Different shark.
Shark after shark comes in, circles the boat, and is photographed and identified. The goal now is to keep the pictures coming and sort them out later. At this rate, they'll have a solid photo sample of the sharks at Point Conception.
I've lost count of how many sharks we've seen today.
It's been a lot, that's for sure.
This location's like a conveyor belt of sharks. When we're here multiple days, we don't very often see the same sharks.
They're literally coming by one right after another, like they're
Like
put
right
together
now.
in a Congo line.
Yep, check her out.
Oh, wow. Here she comes.
Oh, no, not the bucket. Oh, my God, another new one. Nicole's going to have her work cut out for her. We got clips and clips and clips, and putting together the left with the right is not going to be easy.
Hey, guys, I think I saw another one in the distance. All right, there it is. Hang on, heads up, down below. Incredible, incredible.
There she is, different shark right now.
The two teams spend the next several hours documenting the enormous numbers of sharks in the Point Conception tribe.
Only way we're going to get the beginning of a decent population estimate is to just keep sampling, keep videotaping, keep taking pictures, and see how many individuals we can identify in just a few days that we're here.
As the sun goes down on day one, Michael reconvenes with Neha and Nicole back at the mothership.
Did you manage to get any samples?
Well, Neha, I got you 3. I've never seen so many big sharks in such a short amount of time anywhere. We had 3 16-foot females around us at the same exact time.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Blown away by how many sharks we saw. This is a major tribe of white sharks right here. Undescribed tribe of white sharks. So far, our sampling from the Point Conception tribe is really robust compared to the Guadalupe Island tribe. Yesterday it was so crazy on Keith's boat, so we're gonna bring Neha out today just to help us keep things organized. She can deal with all the tissue samples and labeling and taking notes. That'll be a big help.
Meanwhile, Nicole will go through the images from day one to identify and count up all the individuals.
Oh, there's one. Wow, check that out. Oh, another one right there.
Wow, they're everywhere.
What's going on?
2 sharks.
Almost immediately, they spot several great whites surfacing near the boat.
Here we go.
No water.
Look,
That's
look,
cool.
look,
There
look.
she is.
She's got some markings on her face.
They get bitten all the time hanging out with their boyfriend. There's another one. That's a boy. It's a mature male.
Researchers identify the sex of a shark by the presence of male organs called claspers. And they come in sets of 2.
Look at that. Another female.
Researchers have found that white sharks often segregate based on sex, with males staying mostly separate from females. But here at Point Conception, the males and females are together.
From my extensive satellite tracking, I've found that for the most of the year, they probably never even see each other. At these adult aggregation sites, it's one of the only places and times where males and females are there together. And I really believe that they're mating at these coastal aggregation sites.
If tribal aggregation sites are mating grounds, then they're critically important to the future of the white shark population.
Different shark. I have never seen a shark that looked like that before.
Yeah, that's pigment. That's a pigment deal.
That's weird looking.
This female white shark exhibits a very unusual pattern. It could be genetic or even a skin disease. Regardless, she's easy to identify.
Look at her eyes, even messed up.
Yeah.
She's an example of the diversity in the Point Conception tribe.
Whoa! I didn't need that. I think she's a zombie.
They did kind of look like lesions on her body.
Yeah, I get ready with the biopsy. You know, I have a good shot of her. That will allow us to ID her.
All right, she's coming back around to your side, Keith.
Genetics might explain the shark they've named Zombie's unique appearance. So the team really wants to collect a tissue sample from her.
Here she is, right here, Keith. You can get her right here, right here, right here. Get her. Oh, there's one. There she is. That's Chris.
Zombie
That's
shark.
our zombie. Here she is, right here, Keith. You can get her right here. Got it. Right on.
Good job. The white shark is right at the top of this food chain. And essentially, if you take out any piece of the food chain, that whole system collapses. And so the more data we have can really increase how well we understand this system.
There's one deep right there.
The team spends the rest of the day photo IDing and tissue sampling.
Here at Point Conception, it's a whole new ball game. I know it's an aggregation site. The world doesn't know because I've yet to publish the papers. But this is a major, major great white shark tribe.
Their time in Point Conception is coming to an end. But while everyone was photographing sharks, Nicole made a wild discovery.
Okay, so check this out. Turns out that one of the females matches up with a Guadalupe Island shark.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Of the 27 sharks they've identified in Point Conception, one is a familiar face, Livy. She's a massive female and a member of the Guadalupe Island tribe.
I was shocked. I mean, I wasn't even thinking that was going to happen.
I was surprised that we were able to identify a Guadalupe Island shark.
The plot thickens.
Right.
We have seen very, very few adult white sharks from one tribe visit another. I mean, the percentage has got to be less than 10%. So for Livy to just show up at Point Conception was pretty cool. Now that we have a really good start with our Point Conception tribe, I want to call my collaborator, Dr. Oscar Sosa, down in Mexico and let him know what we found. Hey, Oscar, how are you?
Hey, how are you, Michael?
It's actually doing really good. We just got back from Point Conception. This is a bit of a shocker. One of the sharks was one that's in our Guadalupe Island catalog.
Wow, is that true?
Yep, Livy.
To find out that one shark from Guadalupe Island is showing up in Point Conception is great. It goes with our hypothesis that the aggregation in Guadalupe Island is getting to a number that might be the animals looking for some other new places.
And in just 2 days, we saw almost 30 sharks, Oscar.
Wow, that's great.
I'm really curious to see how that number will match up in our upcoming expedition to Guadalupe Island, if we see about the same or more or less.
Yes, that will be interesting to look for, right?
That might give us some idea if it's, you know, a similar sized tribe or not.
Yeah, of course, of course.
All right, Oscar, then stay tuned. We'll be in touch.
Adios.
We just wrapped up 2 great days at Point Conception where we saw a lot of sharks. But it's been 10 years now since I did a population estimate for Guadalupe Island. It's really important for us to go check that number in this overall picture of how many great white sharks are there in the northeastern Pacific.
Keith and Neha stay behind at Point Conception, while Nicole and Michael sail 400 miles south to recount sharks at Guadalupe Island. This great white hotspot hosts the most well-studied tribe in the northeastern Pacific.
Back at Guadalupe Island. I've been coming here for 22 years. I can't believe it. This is the best place in the world to study great white sharks. Wow, incredible. The conditions for working at Guadalupe Island are way superior to Point Conception because the water is clear. We can see so much further. We can capture so many more images of sharks. You have a couple more of those to put one in each corner? Yeah.
To keep an eye out for sharks coming up from the deep, Michael and Nicole ready a drop camera.
One giant difference between the Point Conception tribe site and the Guadalupe Island tribe site is the water depth. At Point Conception, it's really shallow. At Guadalupe Island, we're anchoring up at probably 300 to 400 feet of water, and we're right on the edge of a cliff that goes into thousands of feet of water.
We have a camera we can drop deep and try to get a perspective on what sharks are down deep that might not be coming up to the cage.
While the drop camera provides another set of eyes in the deep, Michael prepares for a cage dive to photo ID sharks near the surface.
Michael, do you copy?
Gotcha. I hear you.
All right, so Michael's in the water, and he has a camera that's giving me a live feed, so I can see exactly what he's seeing.
Michael also has twin lasers on his camera, calibrated to measure the sharks he's filming.
Michael, are you seeing anything down there?
Here's good one. Wow. Wow, that came out of nowhere. Beautiful male. Ah! Just out of range. I'm not sure what shark that was.
Coming around again.
There we go, it's coming up from below.
This great white demonstrates a well-documented attack strategy by ambushing the bait at the surface with a vertical strike from below.
Do you recognize that one?
Yeah, that's definitely Duncan.
Nicole logs in Duncan, the first known shark of the day.
That's one fired up shark, folks. Wow, check that out. We got two sharks now.
Michael, does that look like a bigger shark?
No doubt about it.
Here he goes. Oh my God. Oh, there he goes. Ah! I think that might be Jacques.
Money shot. It's a great measurement on that shark.
Michael records a new approximate measurement of Jacques. He's grown nearly 2 feet since they last measured him in 2005.
So far, we've seen 2 different males. Duncan, which is a bit smaller, and Jacques, which is a much bigger shark.
But just like Point Conception, females are present too.
Oh, here comes a new one. Check this one out. Female.
She's coming straight up for the bait.
Hello. Beautiful, beautiful shark.
I'm not sure which shark that is.
Definitely a new shark. Check that out. Well, we got this fresh female here just charging around.
Watch out, here she comes.
I got her. She's coming back. Here she comes.
Female great whites tend to be larger than males, and that size translates into raw power.
Wow! Oh my God! Well, we got this fresh female here. Here she comes. Wow! Oh my God! A big shark, big shark. Really strange to be staring right inside the mouth of a white shark.
Nice.
Our main objective is to identify every single shark that swims past this boat and record whether it's a known shark that we already have in our catalog or if it's a brand new shark. And that ratio of known to new sharks is critical in figuring out if a number of sharks is going up or down.
The researchers spend most of the day snapping photo IDs of the sharks passing by the surface cage.
And it stands just out of range.
But they also notice several individuals swimming below the cage in deeper water.
To have them pull us up, we can have a stop.
Oh my God. That was amazing. I think we might want to pull our drop cam up because they were staying low, made a lot of passes over that way. I have a lot of high hopes for that drop cam.
All right, let's check this thing out.
At Guadalupe Island, where it's so deep, there's a chance that some of the sharks could be hanging out way down below the boat. We never see them. So on this expedition, we want to confirm, using a deep drop camera, that the sharks that are down deep are the same sharks that we're seeing shallow. Nicole, let's get the cards out of these things, plug them into your laptop, see what we got.
We got some really good footage. Here's an example of the deep cam. I mean, there were a few shots that had 2 or 3 sharks in them.
Oh my gosh.
It's like a photo booth. They just come on by and get their photo taken.
We have a lot more deep cam footage to go through, but we're using it to test this assumption that we are equally likely to see any shark at the surface in the deep cam. So how do you think that assumption's washing out?
I've seen a couple from the surface that we were able to identify on the deep camera.
That's great. Well, fortunately, it's only day 1. We got 2 more days, so we can increase our sample size and make this study even more robust.
As day 2 begins in Guadalupe, Nicole and Michael have a preliminary count for the number of sharks they've identified so far.
Day 1 went actually better than I expected. We thought by the end of yesterday we had 7 total sharks, 3 of them new, but working later into the night, that number is pretty much doubled. And we're still grinding through the drop cam footage this morning. Deep cam deployed.
The deep camera spotted so many sharks that Michael changes the dive plan for day 2.
The focus today is going to be the submersible cage. That's at a level that's between the drop cam and the surface cages.
Diving at depth presents unique challenges and dangers. If anything goes wrong, there's no easy avenue of escape.
Here we go.
Michael, can you hear me?
Gotcha. I hear you. Let's start this deep cage dive, see what we can see.
The team lowers the cage to about 50 feet. This is an ideal hunting zone for great whites to launch ambush attacks on prey at the surface.
That's beautiful. It's like a swimming pool today. There we go. Nicole, look to your right.
Oh, there's another one coming up underneath you.
Good eye, Nicole. I got her. I got her. Too deep, though. Far below us.
Oh, there's a shark behind you.
Nicole, do you recognize that shark at all?
That one is Sabrina.
She's a big girl.
Nicole and Michael have known Sabrina since 2013, when they added her to the catalog.
There's a new shark right there.
And it looks like their old friend invited someone else to the party.
That's the female from yesterday. See a fishing gear hanging out of her gill. There's another shark here, but I'm not sure where it went. Oh, there she is. Oh, check that out. Nicole.
Oh, I think that's Gianna.
Holy moly. Oh, check that out.
Oh, I think that's Gianna.
Holy moly.
Gianna is one of the largest known sharks at Guadalupe. 6 years ago, Michael took her precise measurements. Measuring Gianna again now would reveal her growth rate since then.
Yeah, those are the tough ones.
Looks like she's going for the bait.
Yeah. It's just out of range of my lasers. I can't quite get a measurement.
Oh, there's another one coming up underneath you.
Oh, there he is.
It's just not coming close. Let's go pull the deep camera and see what we can see on that.
Over the span of my research career, you kind of get really attached to certain sharks. There are some sharks that we just find more charismatic than other sharks, and they're much bigger. One of those sharks is Gianna. She's one that I actually captured, measured, tagged, and released many years ago. I'd love to get another measurement on that shark.
You know what, Nicole? That was the best deep cage dive I've ever had.
Yeah.
In fact, I didn't want to come up.
What we had, Sabrina first. She was pretty big. And that new female, and Gianna.
Now that's the one I want to measure. Since we caught her, we taped her out.
She didn't come very close.
No, she didn't. So we're not just here to count the sharks. We're here to put really accurate measurements next to the name of each of these sharks for the first time. If we've captured that and measured that shark before, we'll have real data on the growth rate of wild white sharks.
Healthy growth rates mean more sharks reaching sexual maturity. More mature females like Gianna means more baby sharks and bigger shark populations. It's another important shark metric, so Michael adds lasers to the deep camera.
We mounted the lasers directly to our deep cam and recalibrated them. They are like perfect right now. Let's shove this thing in.
We're hoping to see more sharks, get more measurements, and maybe some sharks we haven't seen yet.
Wow, they are just everywhere. Look at that. Another female.
So all of this is really important to help get our trend for how many new sharks we have coming in and how many that were previously identified.
This one we gotta get filmed, both sides.
Sharks are always here. Guadalupe Island is one of the most consistent places for great white sharks. And for me, it's great to see my sharks again.
The new count at Guadalupe Island brings them one step closer to deciphering northeastern Pacific white shark populations. But the mission is far from over.
Conducting a population estimate using market recapture methods takes time. However, we've been collecting data at Guadalupe Island for so long, we can do our second population estimate for that site. The key is what the ratio is between the sharks that we've known before and sharks that are new for this year. Just from this trip alone, where are we right now with regard to that ratio?
After 3 days at Guadalupe Island, we've seen around 25 sharks total. Overall, there were 9 sharks that were new for this season. So 9 out of 25 were new.
So almost a third were new sharks.
Correct.
That's a great ratio. The more new sharks we see in a given sampling period, that means the population has gone up more.
At this point, I'm not done going through all the footage. There's still some photos and videos, and especially the deep camera that I need to go through.
What you're saying is that we're not done yet.
No.
I mean, you're not done yet. You got a lot more work to do. To come to the final number. I'm looking forward to wrapping it up. The season's pretty much done.
Yes.
And send this off to our statisticians and see where we're at. Now that we've accumulated new data for Guadalupe Island, it's time to send it off to our colleague, Dr. Oscar Sosa in Mexico. He can crunch the numbers and give us our new population estimate for that site.
It's been over 10 years since researchers completed the last official population estimate for white sharks in the northeastern Pacific.
This 2011 population estimate pronounced there were only about 450 white sharks for all of the northeastern Pacific, and I did not believe that number could be true.
Beachgoers in California are encountering great whites in high numbers. Dr. Michael Domeyer suspects dramatically rising shark populations could be the reason. His shark census will confirm if his theory is correct or not.
So it's been 4 months now since we finished our Guadalupe expedition. Nicole continued to go through all the pictures and video, and at the end of all of that, she found we saw 37 individual white sharks during that trip, 13 of which were new. That's a very heavy ratio towards new sharks. That would push our population index up.
Michael has sent all the data to shark researcher Dr. Oscar Sosa in Mexico, and he is working out the estimate.
I can't wait to jump on a Zoom call and find out if the Guadalupe Island white shark tribe is increasing, decreasing, or staying the same.
I have been working on this modeling. I'm very excited to give these numbers that I'm showing to Michael.
Hey, Oscar. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting to hear what our results are after giving you all the new data. So please, I heard you're ready. Share with me the result.
Yes, of course, Michael. Well, guess what? We found an 80% of increase in the population.
Wow, 80%. Incredible.
It's incredible.
That's almost double, Oscar.
Yeah.
That is beyond significant population increase.
I haven't seen this kind of results shown to the general public yet.
I can't believe it. The fact that we've seen an 80% increase in the white shark population at the Guadalupe Island tribe suggests to me that these other tribes are very likely increasing as well. It's a huge trend upwards. It also validates what people are just seeing, beachgoers in California. They say, and like the lifeguards will tell you, I'm seeing more and more sharks.
To know how the numbers of the populations of sharks are going is very important for the public safety. As the number is larger, the potential interactions between humans and sharks it grows.
The big increase in shark numbers at Guadalupe could be the reason for new aggregation sites along the rest of the coastline.
This latest attempt to get a population estimate has raised some really new, interesting questions for me. We know from researchers that study the northern elephant seals that as their population grows, they keep colonizing new beaches. Could that same thing be happening to adult white shark aggregations? I think it's possible over time that the Guadalupe aggregation site gets overpopulated with sharks and the sharks have to start to look for a new place to go, don't you think?
Yes, that's certainly true.
The researchers have only just begun to count the Point Conception tribe.
It's a lot of sharks, Keith.
But the numbers so far suggest a huge new aggregation just 100 miles from Los Angeles. A white shark can cover that distance in 2 days.
So at Guadalupe Island, in 3 days of filming, we saw 37 different sharks. At Point Conception, we only had 2 good days. We saw almost 30 sharks. To see that many sharks in that short amount of time, my gut tells me the size of the tribe at Point Conception is approaching the size of the tribe at Guadalupe Island.
Truth is, white shark numbers are on the rise in many places around the U.S. coastline. Laws protecting marine mammals have led to seal population explosions too, and more seals support more white sharks. The bottom line is, the sharks are out there, and beachgoers will have to learn to coexist with great whites.
It's pretty clear to me the white sharks are thriving in the northeastern Pacific. But our expedition to Point Conception was the very beginning. And all those sharks are brand new to anyone who's studying white sharks in the northeastern Pacific. We have a lot more to learn.
Around the world, crocodiles and alligators are on the move, heading out to sea and deep into shark territory. Is this a modern phenomenon or a new twist on an ancient story? From mysterious severed heads,
you can see where the shark's actually bitten it,
to ambush attacks.
Oh man, this is incredible.
To getting an up-close look at these real-life jaws.
Man, that is one impressive set of teeth.
What happens when 2 of the deadliest predators on the planet go head-to-head? The Everglades, Florida. A vast tropical wetland crisscrossed by a network of swamps, channels, and rivers. An unlikely mecca for sharks.
When you think about the Everglades, you don't really think about sharks. But every year we get adults of bull sharks, lemon sharks, and blacktip sharks coming here to have their young because it's such a great place for those baby sharks to grow up.
Dr. Mike Heithaus has been studying the predators here for almost 20 years. He's discovered young sharks can spend the first 4 years of their lives hunting for small fish in the web of mangrove roots that line these waterways.
As the tide goes down and there's less space to hide, those fish have to come into the channel, and that's where the sharks have a really good chance of catching them. But they're not the only predators in town.
Alligators also stalk these mangroves. Able to hold their breath for over 30 minutes, they move silently through the water, barely creating a ripple, feeding on everything from fish to small mammals. Do they also have a taste for sharks? In recent years, members of the public have captured glimpses of shark-gator clashes in the brackish borderlands that separate Florida's fresh and saltwater systems.
We usually think of sharks as saltwater creatures and alligators as freshwater creatures, and they should never interact. But it's not that simple. These sharks can come up and live in almost entirely fresh water, and alligators can survive where there's a fair bit of salt in the water. My hunch is that these animals run into each other more often than we'd think. I mean, are they competitors, or is this predator versus prey? And who's the predator?
As dusk falls, the team prepares for a groundbreaking tagging operation. Their mission is to put cameras on the backs of sharks and gators in this suspected predator battleground for the first time ever. As a thermal drone scouts for gators from above,
Okay, so yeah, point it directly that way. Yeah.
the team begins exploring a series of narrow channels carved through the shark nursery. Gators are easier to spot at night. Their eyes reflect light back off the retinas, giving them the effects of night vision. In a flashlight's beam, their eyes glow bright red.
Look at that, right up here.
There's one, up on the left.
That's a big one. Oh, he's down.
Keep moving that light there.
See him?
I think I got it! Yes! Yes! Cut the motor, cut the motor.
As the team wrestles the 6-foot gator alongside the boat,
Mike, you're gonna have to snare him.
they need to be careful.
I got the snare.
Alligators are armed with up to 80 teeth,
Close that mouth, please. Just close it a bit.
with a bite force of over 2,000 pounds per square inch. Their jaws are nearly twice as powerful as a bull shark's.
Perfect. Very nice. So, the impressive thing about alligator jaws is they've got tons of force to close them, but not a lot to open them. So 5 or 6 wraps of this tape, and it will not be able to open those jaws, which makes it safer for the alligator and definitely us.
As the team drags 150 pounds of angry alligator onto the boat, they make a shocking discovery.
Oh, look at that. Look at his tail, or lack thereof.
He's missing over a foot of tail. Has this potential shark hunter become shark prey? Male alligators are highly territorial and regularly clash. They can lose limbs and tails to these violent attacks. Sharks are more than capable of inflicting similar wounds. The team decides on a name.
Oh, is he Stumpy?
Stumpy. But obviously he looks pretty fat and happy.
Yeah.
Not having any trouble getting dinner.
Next, they ready a state-of-the-art camera system, GatorCam. It's armed with depth, accelerometer, GPS, and temperature sensors. For the next 24 hours, it will record every move Stumpy makes. If he has a run-in with a shark, it will be caught on camera.
Yep. Good. Clear.
Yes! Yes! Woo! Woo! Yeah! Yes!
For the first time ever, we're riding on the back of an alligator as it moves through the Everglades. Hugging the edges of the mangroves, Stumpy moves north, just beneath the surface, at a steady speed of 2 miles per hour. With pressure-sensitive cells around his jaw that detect the slightest movement, he's perfectly designed to hunt in these murky waters. As the team hitches a ride on a gator in the Everglades, the investigation heads to Maryland. New research suggests shark-gator conflicts have been taking place here for millions of years, and the sharks sometimes come out on top.
A professional collector came to visit me. His name is Dougie Douglas, and he's well known in the area for collecting fossils from along Calvert Cliffs. And he came to my office with this coprolite. Now, coprolite is the technical term that we give to fossilized feces. And we think that this kind of coprolite came originally from a crocodile. But when he first showed it to me, I just could not believe what my eyes were seeing, because there are tooth impressions along both surfaces, deep ones on this flattened side, but more shallow ones on this convex side. And it's really clear that these tooth impressions were actually made by a shark. And I was delighted to have it because I wanted to be able to sleuth it out and figure out, how it had formed and how the shark had come to bite it. And maybe I would be able to tell what kind of shark had bitten it.
"23 million years ago, ancient sharks and crocodiles roamed this coastline, hunting for prey like turtles. Did they also prey on each other? Stephen is convinced this fossil holds the answer.
I thought to myself, if I take a liquid molding, I'll be able to see, hopefully, the shape of the teeth that penetrated into the coprolite. When I pulled the silicon cast away from the coprolite, I noticed that there was a tiny tooth in the center of the cast, which told me that that was the midline of the jaw, and that the teeth on one side were pointing in one direction towards the angle of the jaw, and the teeth on the other side were pointing in the opposite direction. Then I was able to compare it with this set of modern jaws from a tiger shark. And I noticed that the tooth impressions had the same shape as the modern tiger shark. Now, one of the amazing things about sharks is that you can almost always identify the species of shark by the shape of the tooth. And I was able to determine that these teeth came from one of the extinct kinds of tiger sharks that we find along Calvert Cliffs.
But is a tiger shark up to the task of taking a chunk out of an alligator, whether in ancient times or today?
We're heading out off from Palm Beach, Florida, which is one of the great spots to go try to find tiger sharks. And that's one of the only species that's big enough and has the teeth to be able to maybe take out an alligator or a crocodile. This stretch of the Florida coast is kind of a shark superhighway. You have this narrow strip of shallow water, lots of different habitats near shore, deep water not far away, so you get lots of different species in one small area. The species you'll see the most often is probably lemon sharks, because, they're not really afraid of boats, and they'll come up to the surface and even investigate boats.
But this isn't a place you'd expect to find alligators. So when charter boat captain Jessica DeGraw spotted a gator swimming in saltwater off Florida's coast, she grabbed her phone and started videotaping.
We're sighting here today at the island.
Here off the coast of Florida, seeing alligators or crocodiles in the oceans is pretty uncommon. Alligators don't have functioning salt glands, so if they come out here, they can only be here for a very short time before they have to go to fresh water. But we've found that there are some alligators that are commuters. They'll swim down to the ocean, spend some hours there, and then go back up to the freshwater.
If a gator does venture out, Mike Heidhouse knows just where it might find a seafood buffet and a shark.
We're going to be diving on a shipwreck, and it is a great place to look for sharks because it attracts so much food.
Some of the biggest sharks on Earth patrol these waters along the rich Florida coastline, and Mike is getting ready to dive in with one of the most dangerous of them all.
Tiger sharks are one of the biggest predatory sharks. They can get to be 15 feet, 18 feet, or maybe even more, way more than 1,000 pounds. And they're one of the few species of sharks that takes out big prey.
Tiger sharks are also responsible for more recorded attacks on humans than any other shark, except the great white.
Captain's gonna drop us just south of the wreck here.
So, what could possibly go wrong?
There is a residential tiger named Patrick. He's about 10 foot that lives around here. The sign for tiger is this. The thing with tiger sharks, guys, is they're really, really sneaky. If they have the opportunity to sneak up on you, they will. So please keep your eyes peeled. Tiger sharks are all about eye contact, all right?
Stay together, head on a swivel. Being in with these big animals gets the adrenaline pumping, there's no question. You have to be super respectful and give them their space.
And we already have 11 sharks, another shark, and a big Goliath grouper. And all aggressive predators in their own right, but really not a threat to an alligator that got really lost.
The special guest finally makes an appearance.
Oh man, they're just incredible tiger sharks.
What a fantastic dive. I mean, that tiger shark, what a beautiful animal. You can see how big it was, but tiger sharks get even bigger than that. And with that mouth right at the end of the snout, they can easily grab big prey. Add in the teeth, they can cut through even the thick hide of a crocodile or out here a very wayward alligator. That is really one of the top predators in the ocean.
So, in Maryland, the ancient tiger shark teeth marks in the ancient crocodilian's coprolite could have happened in modern times. But some mysteries remain. One is, how do alligators survive in saltwater when they're native to fresh?
An alligator sent people scurrying for sand today in Collier County. FWC officers told people, get out of the water.
Like most crocodilians, alligators are freshwater creatures. If they spend too much time in saltwater, they dehydrate and die. So why are they heading out to sea? And how are they doing it?
The good news for most alligators is that they're fairly big. So they can go out to the ocean, slowly take salt into their body. It's a bit stressful, but then they can move back up to freshwater and kind of flush their bodies out and reset.
If you're an alligator, why would you go to all that trouble? The discovery of a severed croc head in South Africa could hold the answer. St. Lucia Beach, South Africa. As Neil and Brigida Carey Smith take their daily walk along the beach, they spot a strange shape on the shoreline.
At first, we thought it was a log because a lot of debris floats down the estuary, which runs into the sea. But about 30 meters away, I realized that it was a crocodile head.
Turning on their camera, they carefully approach.
As we got closer, we realized just how big this head was. It was absolutely enormous.
Just come stand close to it, my darling, just so people can see the size. Put your hand on its head. We'd estimate it to be in the region of about 120 pounds or so.
So if that was the size of the head, imagine what the size of the crocodile was. It was just very exciting, and we just realized we'd come across something quite special.
Like their alligator cousins, Nile crocodiles are freshwater predators, more at home ambushing wildebeest than moving through the waves. So what was this croc doing out in the ocean? And what killed it?
The more I inspected the head, the more I saw that there were teeth marks on the side of it.
And being a deep sea fisherman, he's sort of quite knowledgeable about that kind of thing. And he said to me, that's definitely a shark cut. Something must have happened, some drama unfolded here.
You can see where the shark's actually bitten it.
There's no doubt in my mind whatsoever that that was a shark that had bitten that crocodile. None whatsoever.
The wild waters off South Africa are world famous for sharks. Tigers, bulls, bronze whalers, and white sharks all patrol St. Lucia's shoreline. Could one of them have taken on a huge Nile crocodile? Mike Heithaus is convinced sharks, crocs, and gators could be clashing far more regularly than we've ever realized.
Looking from the size of this head, this was a big croc. I mean, probably over 10 feet long, and it raises a lot of mysteries, like what was it doing out at sea, and how did it end up ahead on a beach? This is a map showing where that severed head was found. And when we zoom in here, what you can see is that it wasn't too far away from two really major river systems. So it's possible that the crocodile died in the river system and the head floated out, or it could have come into these coastal waters to feed because those are really rich waters. Now, there are white sharks in this part of the world. The white sharks don't tend to be in those super shallow, turbid waters where you might find crocs and gators, but it could also be a really big tiger shark or a bull shark. And the bull sharks in this part of the world do get really, really big. They're one of the few species of sharks that will tangle with animals close to their own body size. So, you know, if any shark's gonna go after a bigger crocodile, bull sharks are definitely on that list. And those big bull sharks do go up into these river systems.
Just as at home in freshwater as saltwater, bull sharks have unique adaptations in their kidneys and livers, which allow them to thrive in both environments.
They're famous for being in turbid, murky waters, and that suite of sensory systems they have helps them zero in on their prey.
But could they really take down a huge Nile croc?
Bull sharks, when they get really big, do have the teeth to get through them, but it might be a pretty big effort. You know, and that's one thing when you look at that head. If a bull shark had done that and the croc was struggling, I would have expected a lot more slashes and cuts. It wouldn't be a clean bite through. They would not be able to get through that skin just in one bite. But without that severed head here in front of me, it's impossible to say if sharks removed the head from that crocodile. Was it poached? Did this croc die and then something eat it? Big boat propeller. There are lots of things that could have happened here. This raises a lot more questions than answers.
4 years later, St. Lucia Estuary provides the backdrop for another, even more dramatic shark-croc confrontation.
Shark is just in front of the crocodile. Did you see that?
Wildlife guide Casper Badenhorst is birdwatching along South Africa's St. Lucia River mouth when he spots something strange in the water.
It was a perfect day. It was no wind, it was quiet, the water was flat. And that's when I noticed there's something different. I start seeing the shark fin getting bigger and coming out of the water, and eventually the tail of the shark. And I knew this can be nothing else than a shark.
Grabbing his camera, Casper begins filming.
And as I videoed the shark, from the corner of my eye, I was starting to see a crocodile swimming towards the shark.
A crocodile?
Crocodile's going to the shark.
Crocodile is going to the shark.
The crocodile was twice the length of the shark. You could see his aim was to get the shark and to take it down.
And the crocodile?
It's going straight for him. The crocodile was edging closer.
The shark is just in front of the crocodile.
There you go.
Oh, what's that?
Oh, the shark's gone. There was a big splash, and for a few seconds we couldn't see, what happened.
The shark went under.
But then a few seconds later, the shark emerged and just kept on swimming. This crocodile was clearly going for the shark, going to have it as his next meal, and so the shark was lucky to get away.
Oh man, this is incredible. I mean, you just don't see footage like this. You can see by the way the crocodile is shifting its body, it's aware of that shark from pretty far away. And even though it's aware of it, it's not really starting to chase it. It's just slowly kind of turning its body and moving to be on an interception course. Then it waits until it's really close and it makes that last super-powered kind of lunge swim to try to get the shark. That's a predator trying to get a meal. The shark doesn't look that much smaller than the crocodile. And so you'd think they'd be fairly evenly matched, but the crocodile just doesn't care at all. And I mean, if you think about crocodiles, they are really good at getting big prey. I mean, zebra, wildebeest, they don't care that it's a shark. So, this starts to answer that question of what happens when they're more evenly matched. If the crocodile's in position, it's gonna have a shot.
Back in the Everglades, the investigation into the suspected shark gator battleground heats up.
Good. Yep. Good. Clear.
With a camera tag successfully deployed on a big adult male gator called Stumpy, the team's attention now turns to sharks. Setting a series of baited lines across the bay, it's not long before they get their first bite.
There, shark! That is bite-sized for a big gator.
It's a bull shark, and at 4 feet long, a juvenile.
Okay.
They prep a miniature camera tag, and within minutes, they release the shark back into the battle zone.
Yes! Woo! Good job. I mean, that was amazing, first shark of the trip, and it was the perfect size for the camera. And that's a really cool size of bull shark in this area because it's small enough that it could get eaten by a really big gator, but it's big enough that baby gators could be on the menu for that. Oh, aren't they cute?
Over the next few hours, they catch 5 more bulls and painlessly insert tiny acoustic transmitters inside their bodies. The data they collect could change our understanding of how these sharks survive in such dangerous waters.
So that tag has a pinger essentially that sets off at a certain frequency roughly every 90 seconds. And all across the bay, we have acoustic receivers, which are just these listening devices that'll pick up those pings so that we can essentially track the bull shark's movements throughout the bay as it's passing each of those receivers.
Will their movements overlap with Stumpy the alligator's? And will the camera tags capture the first underwater footage of a clash? If they do, it will be a world's first.
If you go that way, they're alligators, that way, they're alligators, and here we are with bull sharks all over the place. So it really shows this is the collision zone for these two big predators.
When it comes to tiger sharks and gators, the clash that happened at Calvert Cliffs, Maryland, over 15 million years ago, still holds one more mystery. How were the teeth marks made?
So when I noticed that the shark tooth impressions did not equally penetrate into the coprolite, I wondered why that was. Because if the shark had bitten the feces and they'd been floating in the water, I would have expected the teeth in the upper and lower jaws to have equally penetrated into the fresh feces. I realized that maybe the feces were not outside the body of the crocodile, but still within the abdominal cavity. And that's why the teeth had not equally penetrated both sides of the coprolite. That when the shark plowed into the abdomen, its teeth penetrated one side further than the other. This then came detached from the rest of the crocodile's body, sank to the bottom of the ocean, was entombed by sediments, and 15 million years later was found by Dougie Douglas. Clearly, crocodilians, which are apex predators, and sharks, which are also apex predators, have been clashing for millions of years.
But can a modern-day shark take down a crocodile?
I mean, this is really incredible.
The investigation heads down under in search of answers. The Northern Territory, Australia. Home to the biggest crocodilians on Earth, saltwater crocs. In the rivers here, salties rule supreme. Bulls, sawfish, and spear-toothed sharks all patrol these waterways, but they're no match for the salties, which can reach 20 feet in length. In recent years, clash after clash has been recorded along these rivers, with crocs coming out on top every single time. 10% of the river's sharks have scars from attacks. Hunted to near extinction in the 1960s, in recent years, salty numbers have been exploding. Now up to 200,000 live in northern Australia. Running out of space in the rivers, they're heading out to sea.
Saltwater crocodiles are the champions of the crocodile world when it comes to spending time in the ocean. And it's because they can get rid of the salt so well. They have salt glands on their tongue that keep pumping that salt out of there. You know, it's not uncommon for them to make movements of more than 100 kilometers out to sea. And that's one of the reasons that they've spread over such a big area.
Despite their ability to spend several weeks in saltwater, growing evidence suggests they might not be as dominant over sharks here in the ocean. Alan Withers lives and works in one of Australia's most remote areas, the Coburg Peninsula.
We can go for 2-3 months without seeing other people. We cut off around 4 months a year during the wet season by rivers which are impassable.
While people are scarce, sea turtles are plentiful. Throughout the year, they head to the peninsula's isolated beaches to lay their eggs. And the coastal crocodiles take full advantage.
The crocodiles patrol the beaches, just waiting for a turtle to come up and nest. And bang, gotcha.
Here, Alan captured something extraordinary.
We'd seen the crocodile a fair way offshore heading towards the beach with the turtle in its mouth. So I put the drone up and sent it out.
His footage was a first. The croc was being tailed by a pack of sharks.
They're pretty much onto it straight away. They come in like bullets.
As the croc tries to flee with the turtle in its mouth, more and more sharks arrive, including a large tawny nurse shark.
And the big tawny sharks and black tips were actually swimming up beside it and ripping chunks off it while it was in the crocodile's mouth. By the time the crocodile got to the beach, all it had left was literally an empty shell. The sharks had stolen the lot.
Incredibly, this clash between packs of sharks and huge saltwater crocodiles is not a one-off.
It's a regular event. Whenever a large crocodile catches turtle, there's certainly a percentage of body fluid and blood in the water which attracts the sharks. And indeed, pretty much most times that we've seen large crocodiles with turtles, the sharks are present for an easy meal, ripping bits off it as it goes.
So this footage shows just how complex the relationship between sharks and crocs can be. It's not just about who eats who. This shows that sharks might actually take advantage of crocodiles. None of those sharks on their own could really match up one-on-one with that crocodile. But with those numbers, in that ocean realm where they've got lots of space to maneuver, the croc's got no chance if it wants to try to keep its meal, because as soon as it looks at one shark, another one comes in. But while this footage is unique, I would bet that this kind of interaction is happening a lot more often than we'd think, because sharks are kind of the ultimate opportunists, and a free meal is not something they'll pass up.
Across the mangroves and twisted waterways of Rookery Bay in the Everglades, a unique experiment is coming to an end. For the past 24 hours, camera tags have recorded every move alligators and bull sharks make in the suspected shark-gator battleground.
All right, it's like a lot louder over there.
Now released, they're emitting a weak VHF signal the team is using to zero in on their location.
Woo! We did it!
And the data inside shows Stumpy striking to kill.
Oh, man.
Back at base, Mike analyzes Stumpy's data.
This is super cool. I mean, this is the first time we've been able to put a camera on an alligator in these coastal Everglades waters. There's just so much we're going to be able to learn by getting this window into their world.
Stumpy spends most of the night hugging the edge of the mangroves and resting at the surface.
But then at about 2:45 in the morning, things changed, and he goes into hunting mode. You see him a couple times make these big lunges to try to catch something. You can also see in one of these a fish swim into the frame, and then as it swims out, Stumpy makes a big lunge to try to catch it as it's swimming away. And alligators have these sensors called dome pressure sensors on their snout, and those sense vibrations in the water. So that fish swimming by would have triggered those, and he just lunged to try to catch it. You can see from that speed, if a little bull shark got too close, Stumpy could catch it.
GPS coordinates from Stumpy's tag reveal exactly where and when he was hunting. As he moves out into the canal, his movements become a lot more purposeful as he swims upstream looking for prey.
So this graph is showing us the depth where Stumpy is spending time, and the yellow shows us how fast it's moving. Things change when the sun comes up. Stumpy's going down to the bottom and just being completely motionless for long periods of time, maybe 20 minutes or more. And then you have these quick bursts up where he changes the depth and you see that kind of explosive speeds, which could be him lunging at prey. And that's kind of what we'd expect for a sit and wait predator, especially during the day.
It's a unique insight into how gators ambush their prey and are able to bring down faster and more agile sharks.
So here's what we think is going on. Those alligators are lying in wait. Their dark skin probably blends in with the habitat around them. And then when something like a shark swims over the top, they detect it. They can burst up from the bottom with that powerful tail and grab that shark on the soft underbelly before it even knows the alligator's there. And you know, that's really the only way these gators are going to be able to catch sharks that are faster and more agile than they are.
Footage from SharkCam reveals just how hard it is for sharks to spot gators in these murky waters.
You can see that the visibility is terrible. And this is really typical of the waters that these bull sharks are inhabiting. Virtually zero visibility, so they can't rely on their eyes to find a meal or avoid predators, which can include big alligators.
Despite the dangers, evidence from the acoustic tags fitted inside the sharks show just how close they come to gators on a daily basis.
The baby bull sharks are spending the majority of their time in the mouth of the river here. They're in these very shallow bays. Occasionally, though, they are going upstream, and in fact, when we look at the monitors here, you know, there's a shark that hits them pretty much every day. And we know that alligators go farther down than Stumpy did. We've seen them right here at the very base of the habitat where all of these sharks are spending a lot of time.
The team may not have captured a clash on camera, but it's groundbreaking evidence that the Everglades is a shark-croc battleground.
You know, look, when you see these tracks and you look at the data we've collected, there's no question that bull sharks and alligators overlap a ton. And that's why we're starting to see more and more pictures and videos come in from around the world of crocodiles and alligators that have eaten sharks.
Do meetings always end in confrontation? Back in Australia, the death of a whale brings a 10-foot shark and a 13-foot croc face to face. The Kimberley Coast, Western Australia. Jeremy Tucker is skippering a whale spotting cruise when he comes across the body of a huge 50-foot humpback floating 4 miles from the coast.
We realised that it was upside down and just floating. So we went over to the whale and we realised that there was a few sharks feeding on it. And as we got closer, we realised that they were tiger sharks, and there was a couple of really big ones.
Around the world, the death of a whale often triggers a shark-feeding frenzy. Whale blubber is one of the most energy-rich foods in the ocean. Every pound contains over 3,000 calories. A single whale can attract over 200 sharks. But today, the sharks have company.
I decided to put the drone up, and there was a lot of bite marks out of the whale. As we got closer, we realised that there was croc there feeding on the whale. It was really unique, and we all realised that. He was probably about 3 metres long, and he wasn't fussed about the sharks around. He just did his own thing, and he was sort of trying to sit on the pectoral fin and get a feed. The bigger tiger shark actually went underneath the whale and sort of stayed in the shadows. They didn't seem to be too worried about each other. Yeah, I think the food was there and they had plenty to eat, so they were happy.
For 45 minutes, this unique footage shows the two predators feeding on the huge whale carcass.
I think they were pretty full. We noticed the tiger shark swimming around and just having a bite and a little bit of a shake and then swimming off. There was no aggressiveness or there was no feeding frenzy or anything like that. So obviously they'd been feeding on that whale for a while.
As Jeremy is about to leave, something extraordinary happens. The croc and the shark begin feeding within inches of each other.
And when we first saw it, we seriously thought it was quite unique. I mean, you just don't see that.
This is incredible. I mean, you know, sharks feeding from a whale carcass, that's something you're used to seeing. But a crocodile? Yeah, I've never seen that. We usually think of crocs, gators, and sharks as the consummate predators, you know, chasing or ambushing their prey, but they are not going to pass up a free meal. But if you took that food source away, things could be very different. Crocs and sharks are two amazing predator groups that have been interacting for millions of years. But in the 20th century, their populations have plummeted. Now they're just starting to rebound, and we're seeing the interactions happen more often. And there are more people out there filming and photographing them. When you go up into the rivers and estuaries, it looks like the crocs and gators reign supreme. They've got the size, they've got the burst speed. You know, small sharks that live there, they can be on the menu. But as you move out to the ocean, that is the shark's realm. And the sharks those gators and crocs run into are gonna probably be a lot bigger. So if I were a croc or a gator in the ocean, I'd watch my back a bit more.